Rich Dads Retire Young, Retire Rich. How to Get Rich Quickly and Stay Rich Forever. Written by Robert T. Kiyosaki with Sharon L. Lecter, CPA, and read by Jim Ward.
Hi, this is Robert Kiyosaki. David and Goliath was one of my rich dad's favorite stories. I suspect he may have seen himself as David, a man who started with nothing, yet rose to compete against the giants of business. Rich Dad said David could beat Goliath because David knew how to use the power of leverage. If you have listened to my previous programs on the power of cash flow, you will remember that Rich Dad said cash flow is the most important word in the world of money. He also said the second most important word is leverage. Leverage is the reason some people become rich and others do not. Because leverage is power, some use it, some abuse it, and others fear it. The reason less than 5% of all Americans are rich is because only 5% know how to use the power of leverage. One of the most recognized forms of leverage is borrowing money. Today, we are aware of the severe problem of people abusing this powerful form of leverage. Many people now fear this form of leverage, saying, "Cut up your credit cards, pay off your mortgage, and get out of debt." My rich dad would chuckle and say, "Cutting up your credit cards won't make you rich. Cutting up my credit cards only makes me miserable." Instead of teaching us to fear the power of debt leverage, Rich Dad taught his son Mike and me how to use debt leverage in our favor. He often said, "There is good debt and bad debt. Good debt makes you rich, and bad debt makes you poor." In this program, you will find out how my wife Kim and I retired young and retired rich because we're deeply in debt. Deeply in debt with good debt, debt that made us rich and financially free. In other words, we used the power of leverage. We did not abuse the power, nor do we live in fear of its power. Instead, we respect the power of leverage and use it wisely and cautiously. During the hundreds of interviews I have given since the release of the first Rich Dad, Poor Dad book and audio program, I have been asked, "Do you think everyone can be rich?" My reply is yes. I believe everyone has the potential to be rich. This program will explain why I believe all of us already have the power and the potential to be very rich. It will also explain how my wife and I could retire young and retire rich even though we started without any money. And it will also explain why some people are rich and why others are poor, even though we all have the power and the potential to be very rich and retire young. It's all a matter of leverage.
Leverage and your financial freedom. Leverage is a very big word, encompassing and touching virtually everything in our lives. The leverage of the mind is the most powerful form of leverage in the world. Your mind has the power to make you rich or make you poor. Words are leverage. Rich Dad often said, your brain can be your most powerful asset, or it can be your most powerful liability. If you use the right words in your brain, you will become very rich. If you use the wrong words, your brain will make you poor. It does not take money to make money. Getting rich begins with your words, and words are free. In Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you may remember that Rich Dad forbade his son Mike and me from saying, "I can't afford it." Rich Dad said, the primary difference between rich people and poor people is that poor people say, "I can't afford it," more often than rich people. In this first section, you will find out why people who say investing is risky are some of the biggest losers in the investment markets. Again, it goes back to words. You will find out that what you think is real becomes your reality. So if you want to retire young and retire rich, you will need to change how you think and perceive your financial reality. Later on in the program, you'll learn about planning for your new financial reality of being rich. And lastly, you'll learn what actions you need to take in order to make that new financial reality happen so that you can retire young and retire rich. The leverage of your plan. In order for Kim and me to retire young, we had to have a plan that started with nothing because we had nothing. The plan had an end or an exit and also had a time limit. Our time limit was 10 years or less. It took us 9 years, retiring in 1994. I was 47 and Kim was 37. Although we started with nothing, We exited with approximately $85,000 to $120,000 a year in income, depending upon the market, without working. Our income was coming solely from our investments. Even though it may not have been a lot of money, we were financially free because our expenses were less than $50,000 a year. So how did we do it? Well, we retired young in order to get rich. One of the advantages of retiring young is that we now had the free time to get rich. After retiring, our plan was to spend time investing and building businesses. Today, not only do we have substantial real estate holdings, we have built a publishing company, a mining company, a technology company, and an oil company. We also invest in the stock market. As Rich Dad often said, the problem with having a job is that it gets in the way of getting rich. Today, our income per year from our investments and businesses is in the millions and is climbing steadily, even after the stock market crashes. Everything is going according to plan. But most people have a plan to be poor. They say, when I retire, my income will go down. What they are saying is, I plan on working hard all my life, and then I will become poorer after I retire. That may have been an okay plan in the industrial age, but that is a very poor plan in the information age. Millions of workers are now counting on their retirement plans, plans such as a 401k, IRA, superannuation plans of Australia, RRSP plans of Canada, and other plans to be there when they retire. There is one tragic flaw in these information age retirement plans. The flaw is that most of these plans are indexed to the stock market, and as you may have noticed, stock markets go up and stock markets go down. It shocks me to realize that millions of hard-working people are now betting their financial future and their financial security on a stock market. What will happen to these workers if, for example, they are 85 years old and their retirement plan is wiped out, either by depletion, theft, or market crash? Are we going to say to them, get a job and begin saving for retirement? I believe we need to better educate and better prepare people for the information age, the age where we all need to know a lot more about money, the age where we all need to be more financially responsible and depend less on a company or the government to take care of us when our working days are over. Just look at the numbers. By the year 2010, the first of 75 million baby boomers will begin to retire. Over the years, let's say that each of these 75 million begins to collect just $1,000 per month from the promised government retirement plan they have contributed to, and another $1,000 per month from the financial markets. If my math is correct, 75 million times 1,000 comes to $75 billion per month from the government program, and another $75 billion from the financial markets. $75 billion per month coming out of the government and from the financial markets will have a dramatic impact on both institutions. Millions in America do not have a company retirement plan or personal retirement plan. What will they do? They are working hard today but have nothing set aside for tomorrow. For many baby boomers, time, our most important asset, is running out. If you want to retire young and retire rich, you need a better plan than these people do. In the real world, less than 5% of the U.S. population is rich because 95% of the population may want to be rich, but only 5% take any action. In my book and audio program, Rich Kid, Smart Kid, I talk about how our school system punishes kids for making mistakes. Yet if you look at how we learn from our mistakes. Most of us learn to ride a bicycle only by falling off a few times. We learn to walk by falling a few times. Then we get to school and we are taught not to fail. We are taught that people who fail are stupid people. I'm not saying that school is bad. In the information age, school and education are more important than ever before. I am saying that we need to overcome the fear of making mistakes, the fear of failing, and the fear of being embarrassed. If I had not learned this, I would not have been able to retire young and retire rich. As Rich Dad said to me years ago, getting rich begins with the right mindset, the right words, the right plan. After you have that, the action steps are easy. So why did David meet Goliath? Rich Dad's answer to this was, David met Goliath so he could meet the giant inside of himself. Without Goliath, David would never have become a giant of a man. Rich Dad used this story to inspire his son and me to become financial giants. In other words, instead of killing the giant, Rich Dad inspired us to become giants in our own way. This program is about becoming financially free. Kim and I achieved that freedom by acquiring or building assets that worked hard so we did not have to work. Once we were free, we simply continued to build our portfolio of the 3 asset classes: business, paper assets, and real estate into giant portfolios. We retired young and became richer and richer by using all the leverage we could to build these assets. Today, those assets produce more and more income while we work less and less. If you would like to do the same, this program is for you. It will assist you in finding your own financial freedom, freedom from the drudgery of earning a living. As I mentioned, the most powerful form of leverage is found in the power of our minds. If you want to retire young and retire rich, the first thing you must do is use the power of your brain to make you rich. When it comes to money, too many people use the power of their brain to make themselves poor. As Rich Dad said, one big difference between the rich and the poor is that poor people say, "I can't afford it," more often than rich people. He also said, "In Sunday school I learned, and the word became flesh." Poor people use poor words, and poor words create poor people. Your words do become flesh. If you can change your words and your thoughts to those of the rich, retiring young and retiring rich will be easy. How to become rich and retire young. Let me tell a story that will encourage any of you who may be doubtful or in need of some self-confidence to begin the journey to retiring young. When Kim and I started, we were nearly out of money, low on confidence, and filled with doubt. We all have doubts. The difference is what we do with those doubts. In December of 1984, Kim, my best friend Larry Clark, and I were skiing in Vancouver, British Columbia, on Whistler Mountain. At night, the three of us sat in a little cabin around the fire, discussing our plans for the future. We had very high hopes, but very little resources. Kim and I were on our last few dollars, and Larry was in the process of building another business. Our discussions ran late into the night, every night. We discussed books we had recently read, as well as movies we had seen. We listened to educational audio tapes we had brought along, and then discussed the lessons on those tapes in depth. On New Year's Day, we did what we do every year. We set our goals for the coming year. But this year, our goal-setting session was different. Larry wanted to do more than just set goals for the coming year.